18 years in Panama, and I have never felt more optimistic than how I feel right now. Today, I'm going to share with you what I think is a perfect storm that's brewing in Panama. Finally, after a long time with a lot of hiccups. I remember what it was like when we got nailed with the Panama Papers. That wasn't fun. I remember what it was like seeing protests on the street about a year and a half ago. That was also not good for business. But what I can tell you is things are converging right now that are bringing more people than I've ever seen to Panama. And on a micro and macro level, I like what I'm seeing. I'm always a bit worried about how things might change, but today I'm going to share with you what I'm seeing on the ground right now. So first of all, no surprise, European, Canadian travelers are thinking about alternatives. They are not traveling. Florida is having a horrible tourist season right now because politically there's some challenges with coming to the US right now as a foreigner. So those people are looking elsewhere. We've never had a busy season like this. Usually when it's hot in the US, in Europe, nobody's thinking about coming down to hot Panama. Well, not the case this year. It's been a really solid dry or wet season for hoteliers and real estate people like us. So that's new and that's interesting, but that's just the beginning. What I'm hearing right now on first quarter 2025, the other night I met a gentleman who runs the Santa Maria Hotel. Very nice guy. I met him at a business organization that I run called the Panama Business Club. If you're interested, let me know. There's no cost. They just meet every 2 weeks. But anyway, you never know who's going to show up. Well, he showed up. So I started picking his brain a little bit. I said, what are you seeing? How are things looking? He says, Kent, first quarter of next year, which happens to be our busy season, January through March, almost completely booked. I've never heard of that before. This is a big, nice hotel. So that's 5 minutes in advance. Hotel bookings are, in that case, in a lot of other cases as well, looking really solid. So that's promising as well. Another thing nobody's really talking about, I've started to talk about it a little bit, the weak dollar. We haven't had a weak dollar in like 10 years, right? For my Americans, you know, our people, they come down here, it's kind of the same, you know. They go to Colombia, they go to Europe, more expensive. But where it gets really interesting is Europeans, Canadians, non-US dollar countries coming here saying, whoa, Panama is cheap. Well, weak dollar is good. Another big one is the elections coming up in Colombia. Everybody that I've talked to thinks that Petro is going to stay again, which Colombians don't like, right? This guy, I'm not going to even try. I'm sure a lot of Colombians do like him. I don't know about Colombian politics. All I know is in the last year and a half, certain developers who are targeting Colombians have seen in some cases 80% of their projects being bought by Colombians. So the fact that this guy looks like he's gonna stay means we're gonna have another big push leading up to the election for people preparing their plan B out of Colombia. Colombia's our neighbor. Colombia was Panama back before 1904, 1906, Panamanian independence from Colombia. When that happened, before that, we were Colombia. So Panama has 2-3 generations of Colombians living here currently. That's probably our biggest immigrant population. And the fact that it means they're comfortable, right? Anyway, all these people coming over with their money buy Panama real estate. Looking good in that regard. Another big thing, in Europe, you've still got inflation, you've still got economic concerns, you've still got the potential of war, like war kind of expanding. It's already happening. So that's also bringing Europeans. We're getting a ton of interest from Germany, UK, Austria, Holland. Never seen this before. I've seen it on a small scale, not on a big scale. There are competing real estate agencies that are doing business exclusively with Europeans. Wow, and they're growing and they're busy. We get some of that business, you know, it's fine. There's enough to go around. My point is that that market is now becoming viable enough to support a business model in Panama. Imagine. So that's cool. We've got new flights coming. Holy smokes. I'm hearing about a potential nonstop to Japan. Yes. Multiple nonstops coming in from Canada, I believe it was Calgary starting in December, 2 flights a week. Sounds like a great flight time. I talked about this a little bit in my last video, but this is also really big. Now, from a real estate standpoint, that means probably we're gonna see those people, some of them, looking to rent 6 months later. Maybe they'll buy it in a year, but it's all good for the long term. And that's why I think that we are seeing a really nice sort of perfect storm of a lot of things converging. Some on the ground info for you as well. I've heard that the International Development Bank that focuses on South America, I think it's BID, actively engaging developers, builders, and the municipality for what sounds like a really radical new way of financing homeownership in the Old Town. Now, it's probably gonna be in areas like Santana, Chorrillo, sort of on the outskirts of Old Town, but you wonder why those streets, all of those streets were paved? Now we know. I was wondering why. So we're seeing those developments and those areas really starting to gain some traction. Obviously that's with locals and kind of infrastructure development, but the government has something planned, and I've been talking to multiple developers that are doing business out there saying, yeah, like the city has been knocking on our doors, the IDB has been knocking on our doors, interviewing us a lot. So now I think we can all collectively see what's coming. Panama just got a big bond floated, which is a big deal. It means we've got money again to do infrastructure projects, etc. I'm hearing about a 25% increase on spending. We are seeing a big jump in infrastructure spending by the Panamanian government based on a big bond that got floated, bought. Now we've got money to do giant projects like continuing development on this train. I'm not a huge fan of that, but whatever. I don't make the rules here. We've also got infrastructure with some new cable car systems, first in San Miguelito, but then, more interestingly, I think there's gonna be cable cars going from Casco up to Ancon. I would put money on that. I don't know how I could put money on that, but I would. A couple other things, just locally on the ground, tons of new restaurants. My gosh, in Via Argentina, we're just seeing them come up and they're people there, which is great. We love that. New developments, I've alluded to that in past videos. Developments are selling faster than they've ever have. The good ones, the big ones, the ones with the solid developers that we have talked about in the past. New demographics coming, seeing a huge wave of African Americans from the States. Love that. That started probably about 4 years ago. I don't know how any particular population hears about that, but I think it's a couple influencers that got onto Panama a couple years ago, but man, it's amazing. And we love it. Good things happening in Panama from particular sectors of the US, which has always been a strong market for us. So if you haven't booked your tickets yet, might be a good idea to start looking at reservations for January, February, looking at those long-term rentals starting in January out at the beach, because when you're back in December to look at property, they might not be available. Mostly out at the beach. That's a lot more seasonal. City, we always have inventory. Thank you for watching. Hope this is helpful. Have a great day.